Do not adjust your television. What you are about to experience is stranger than fiction.
Hey there, strangers, and welcome to Stranger Than Fiction. I'm your co-host, Devin.
Hi, I'm Heidi.
And welcome to our sort of big, I think it's big for us, our 20th episode.
What?
Yeah. So if you've stuck around long enough or listened to some of our past episodes, for our 10th episode, we wanted to change things up from our usual formula and actually do a top 10 list. So for episode 10, we did the top 10 movies that scared us as kids. So Heidi gave her top 5, I gave mine. And for this, we wanted to continue that trend and do the top 10 movies that scared us as adults.
Yes, and I just want to apologize if my voice sounds a little off. I am sick. I've been sick for a month, so sorry.
You're down with the sickness.
Ooh,
So I did want to address, someone had commented on our 10th episode that I thought was really very fascinating, and I think gets to the heart of at least explaining some of why I think the movies that scared me, and I'm curious on what you think. So Aaron had commented on, we post our podcast list on YouTube, and so Aaron left a YouTube comment that they had a very similar lineup of movies that scared them as kids, and they talked about how Janos abducting baby Oscar in Ghostbusters 2 was scary, and that there's a lot of, he put, quote, child endangerment freaked me out more than grown-ups being in danger, probably because I was a child, but it still freaks me out as an adult. And I find that was very true. Like, Ernest Scares Stupid, you have child endangerment. Ghostbusters 2, Labyrinth, you could make a case that, Jurassic Park has kids in danger. And, like, all of my movies that I chose, I could see that string, and I thought that was really interesting. That one of the scariest things, I think, as a kid is seeing situations where a kid is in danger, because that's so much more real to you, because I think you have this childlike idea of, like, by the time you're an adult, you'll be able to handle scary situations or monsters, or you have this naivety and, seeing other children in danger, like, oh gosh, that could be me, and you supplant yourself in that. And so I found that interesting, because I think what scares us as kids sometimes carries over as adults, and sometimes it doesn't. So I guess I want to preface this by saying that, like, everyone is scared of different things. How those things that come to scare us have a multitude of factors. Some people aren't really scared of much. Some people are scared of a lot. Some people prefer certain horror stories. Some don't. So for me, I'm not a huge gore person. I've said that before.
Yeah, I'm not either. And it doesn't scare me. I just find it unappealing.
Yeah, I just, for the most part, don't enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I think there's, wonderful things to be said about, the practicality of makeup and some of that. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes,
things.
I mean, in some things, I'm like, yeah, like in Stranger Things, when she smashes her face with a roller skate, I was like, fuck you.
But, I mean, then there's things like, I'm not interested in Hostel or Human Centipede or some of that torture porn.
No, I hate torture porn.
And if that's for you, that's great. I'm not bashing it. I'm just saying that my personal preference does not fall in line with that. I really enjoy classic horror. I enjoy a lot of horror that has multiple layers. I think we just watched Prey, and I thought that had,
Was that supposed to be a scary movie?
I mean, it's a horror movie. Oh. I'm not going to say that, again, horror, but scares you is subjective.
To me, it was more like action.
Sure. And you could make a case that the original Predator was action, but there's some gore elements. So, the interesting thing about movies that scare you is a movie can scare you and not be horror, and horror cannot scare you. So you don't necessarily have to watch a horror movie and be scared of it, but you can also watch other movies and be like, that really freaked me out. So I'm not going to say that this list has every single movie's a horror movie, and I'm not going to say that what scares us, even as adults, is maybe going to make sense to every single viewer or listener, but just kind of go along with us. Maybe you'll find that some of these movies also freaked you out. Maybe you'll be very surprised and be like, I don't know, I didn't find that scary at all. But
that's that's how I feel about a lot of scary movies.
That they don't scare you, or you're not sure why?
When people are like, oh, like, is it scary? I'm like, I'm the worst person to ask because my gauge of scary is different. Like,
well, and I would get that people would ask when I worked at Walt Disney World, like, is this ride scary? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm not your child. I don't know. Like, there are some 8-year-olds that can do inverted coasters. There are some 8-year-olds that don't want to be on a kiddie ride. So just like with horror movies, for example, for me, I'm not scared of clowns. I never got that. Me and my brother went to the Bozo show when we were little kids, and that never cool. Bozo never freaked me out. And
yeah, I never been weirded out by clowns. Like, I actually really enjoyed clowns growing up. I love the circus, so.
I remember Pennywise the Clown from like the 90s Tim Curry. That was kind of creepy, but it wasn't clowns as a concept was scary. It was more like that particular depiction is freaky. But I don't want to bury the lead too much. I do kind of want to get into it, but maybe we'll talk a little bit about various things on what does scare us and what doesn't as we go throughout. But to get things started, why don't we start with Heidi's number 5.
So my number 5 is Alien.
1979. Okay.
Sigourney and the gang.
So when did you see that for the first time? Because I think that plays a role into some of these, like whether you're kind of maybe on the cusp. And I will say, we don't have a strict definition for kid versus adult. Because for me, I guess I would say like a kid is like 10 and under.
Yeah,
is that fair?
I wouldn't say like a teenager.
Okay.
Like anyway, but I saw this when I was actually in my early 20s when we first started dating.
It is a freaky movie.
So what I don't like about it is, the actual creature doesn't scare me at all.
Well, yeah, I mean, the
premises doesn't scare me.
The xenomorph, I feel like at this point, most people are very aware of what it looks like.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's not really a reveal. But do you know some of like the background on like the design?
No.
So there was, forgive me if I'm incorrect, but it was a conceptual artist or an artist called H.R. Geiger, and he did a lot of weird art, let's say, and it was very sexual in nature. And so the original like concept drawing for the alien, that long skull, is a penis.
That's a penis.
Yes, and so there's a lot of phallic and yonic symbolism all throughout Alien, because really, I mean, the whole movie is about rape. It's about rape, and Aliens is really kind of about motherhood. But what's terrifying for a lot of men is men don't usually have a fear of something being forced inside them, but this forces a lot of men to confront that idea of like, what if you had a face hugger shove something down you, and then this other thing erupted, and now it's stalking you.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there is the fact that they did this sexual symbolism within the creature, and then there's so much more subtext to the story. Mm-hmm. It is unnerving. I don't know if, I don't think I was really scared of it.
So it's hard to explain. So what freaked me out about it is the chest bursting scene. Just because like something about 80s effects, like nowadays effects, I'm like, okay, whatever. But something about 80s effects were like, it was just, things were creepier, I swear.
Well, it was real. And so you had actors reacting to that explosive burst. Mm-hmm. You know, you had actors who literally were seeing
for the first time.
Sometimes, yeah, I mean, sometimes for the first time, or just being able to, I mean, you have green screen, blue screen is phenomenal in that you can kind of paint anything. But you have to really
play pretend in your mind.
Yeah, and there's something to be said that even the best actors, having a banister to hold on to is just different, because you can make choices reacting to that prop or that monster or that other character than you can without it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's just something real, even with like goofier puppets, sometimes I prefer those than I do a fully CGI effect.
Yeah, I agree.
Because there is the uncanny valley of it. I don't know if Aliens is a pretty scary one.
Well, let me finish. What
right.
actually freaked me out about it. So, like, yeah, the chest bursting scene freaked me out. The whole face hugger situation, not enjoyable. But what scared me the most was the robot, like, leaking milk.
Oh, the android?
That really bothered me. Really? And, like, I feel like if I watched it again, I would be like, no, this isn't scary. But I think it would still make me uncomfortable. Like, I don't know what it is about that non-humanoid effect. Like, I don't like that. It makes me very uncomfortable.
But that's the other side of, and you said 80s effects. This was technically the 70s.
Yeah.
Before somebody tries to debate that. The practical effects of bygone eras. I would say the other side of that is before, I don't know, you've probably only seen it once, but there's this goofy thing where I think they have the android's head on a plate and it's like clearly like a prosthetic fake head. Mm-hmm. And then they set it on this table and then Ian Holm like is clearly like it's just his head popping out of this table.
Of the table, yeah.
And so that's the other side of those effects is, to me, sometimes they are
a little
goofier.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's very clear. It's like, okay, fake head. Ian Holm is now just sticking his head out of there and pretending he's decapitated, which, okay. Again, you know, what scares us or weirds us out? Would you say that scared you or made you more uncomfortable?
Uncomfortable.
Was it just the idea, like, that was unnatural?
I don't know. I don't, like...
Just something about you
thinking about it
you.
now, like, makes me uncomfortable. Like, I just don't like that.
I could understand more
I think I have a fear of robots.
You're... Okay.
But we know that.
You
like
don't
animatronics.
Robots?
I don't like animatronics.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I did know that.
Yeah, they freak me the out.
But it's not like Ian Holmes is really like a animatronic. Like, for all intents and purposes, you think he's a real person throughout most of the film.
Yeah. I don't know. Moving on.
All right.
So moving on, what is your number 5, Devon?
Mine is, and I don't think you've seen this, it's David Cronenberg's The Fly. So
I think I've seen part of it. What's his face? The sexy guy's in it, right? Jeff Goldblum,
yes. So they, in the 1950s, they had, this might have been based off a short story.
Was it a book?
I don't know if it was a book or a short story. I'm not sure, but the 1950s, they had the movie The Fly, that essentially follows the same basic premise. You know, man gets switched in a teleporter with a fly. You've got the famous, he's caught in like a spider web. Help me. And for whatever reason, I don't know the background to it, but David Cronenberg was allowed to remake this in the 80s, 1986. And I talk about how I don't really like gore, but there is a weird fascination I have with body horror.
Oh, what?
Have you heard of body horror?
Yeah, I just didn't know you had a fascination with it.
I find it really, like, not like fascinating, like, ooh, I'm interested, or like, I find it's a weird contradiction of like it grotesques me, but I can't stop staring at it, if that makes sense. And so like Cronenberg, to me, like a lot of his work I find really fascinating, but there was something about, I watched this, I was in my 20s and I watched it alone late at night, and I watched it for the first time. And there's something about his metamorphosis, because it's not like in the 1950 movies where it's just kind of like, boom, they've switched places. You have this deterioration of this, you know, very sexy, you know, Jeff Goldblum in his prime, who's just becoming this man monster freak fly thing. His body is degrading, his relationship's degrading. And it's just so grotesque. And I mean, he's like spitting out like acid, because like how flies eat is they regurgitate some like enzyme dissolving liquid. And so he starts doing that. I think at one point, like he like vomits on this like man's hand, and it's like his hand is like eating away, and like he just becomes this terrifying brundlefly
I'm not
creature.
Gonna watch this.
I'm none of these movies I necessarily would suggest to anyone, because obviously they're scary to us, but to me, I remember watching that, and something about it was like, okay, this hit a layer of too much that the body horror fascination, like this went beyond the fascination and into the like, I'm uncomfortable. I wish I didn't finish this one at the time. And I think all our tastes, kind of grow, or tolerance maybe. So if I watched it again, I probably would be able to handle it a little bit better because you know what's coming. I think that's where it's a lot of scary movies. They may be scary the first time.
Oh, for sure. That's the best part. Like Haunting of Hill House, the TV show, terrified the first time. Now I watch it every year and I love it. It doesn't scare me. But the first time, I slept with the lights on for a week.
Because it's that uncertainty of like, you just don't know what's coming. And so it's, I guess I was a little bit of spoilers if you haven't seen it. I was hoping for a happy ending.
I didn't like that.
And not so much.
The description. No, it doesn't sound like something I watch.
Not for you to watch then.
Oh, look at this. What's this? I don't know.
All right, let's move on to
Heidi's number 4.
So, don't laugh.
This is a place of non-judgment.
So again, I saw this actually when I was like a freshman in college. So I was like 18, 19 years old. And back then I was a weenie. Like when it came to horror, like I was terrified of everything.
Yeah.
And I was doing a show, and after rehearsal one night, my group of friends, we called ourselves the Fab Five at the time.
Oh dear.
The Fab Five, we went to a movie, and it was Paranormal Activity 2.
Okay.
And which is so stupid because
why?
Oh, I don't know why. I feel like if I watched it now, I'd be like, oh, like I haven't seen it since, right?
Yeah.
And I just remember like seeing things move and stuff. Like it really freaked me out, which is hilarious because I watch videos like that like on a daily basis now.
And we'll like
on
critique
TikTok.
them, be like,
that
could be fake. That could be a string there.
Yeah, exactly.
But this movie,
and like it really freaked me out at the time to the point where I parked the movie theater. I refused to get in my car and had to sleep over at my friend Cooper's house. And
did you like think like something had followed you home in the car?
I don't know. I just didn't want to go home. Like I was
Okay.
freaked out. And so I slept over at Cooper's house, who then Cooper decided to terrify me all night.
Nice.
And like make noises and like
that is exactly what I would do.
Freak me out. It was not a good time.
Good
I was
man.
really mad.
I've never seen any other Paranormal Activity. I saw the first one,
Okay.
and that's it. So I don't even know.
I didn't even see the first one. I just saw the second one in theaters.
So what's the plot of the second one? Because the first one ends and I think it's Micah dies, and then she just goes out, presumably possessed by this demon beast thing. How do they go on from there? Are the police after her?
I don't know. I think it's maybe their kids, or I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. I just remember like things moving, and you know how it is when you're in a movie theater and like it's silent and everyone's like, and yeah. So it was just, it was not for me at the time, and I saw it.
I remember seeing the first Paranormal Activity in theaters, and we had hyped ourselves up because people were like, "This is the scariest movie you've ever seen."
I remember that's how it was being aired.
And like I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And it was a bunch of like college guys. There was like 5 or 6 of us, and we're all like, trying to be testosterone man. It's not gonna scare me. It's not gonna scare me. But like, we all kind of were like, oh, maybe this is like the scariest movie ever. I watched it, and if it scares you, great. That particular movie, even in the movie theater, I wanted my money back because I almost didn't find it scary at all. I almost had the opposite. That it had been hyped up to be that this was such a monumentally terrifying experience, expecting I'm not going to be able to sleep, I don't want to be in my car. And then I'm like, okay, so like a few things got knocked around. The end was kind of scary.
Doesn't like a Ouija board catch on fire?
Yeah, I don't know. It just, it didn't do much for me. So that's why I just kind of gave up on the franchise. I haven't seen 2 through 5 or whatever, how many there are.
How many are there? Dang.
There's like 5 at least. I think they're talking about maybe doing another one, but yeah, so I don't know anything about Paranormal Activity 2. So I was curious on what it even is about.
Stuff moves.
Stuff moves. I guess the activity is Paranormal 2, but it's TOO, like as well. This is also Paranormal Activity.
I remember there's one scene it's in a kitchen, and like all the drawers like open up at the same time.
Oh, that's fun.
And it like scared the poop out of me.
All right.
So What is your number 4, Dev?
My number 4 is The Exorcist. So I feel like I probably saw this. I was a teenager. I knew that. I remember hearing about this as a kid. And I feel like I saw this. I remember I watched it in my parents' basement. I was alone.
Why would you do that? How old were you?
I was a teenager at some point.
Still.
I'm not sure exactly when. I feel like maybe like 16, 17. It might have been on TV. It probably had to be because it had to be on TV. My parents definitely didn't own it. And I feel like it was one of those, I had heard how scary this movie was. And so I was like, I'm going to watch it. Like I'm old enough now. I'm brave enough now. And I got through it, but it definitely was scarier than I might have been ready for, especially at that age. And I think there's something I'm personally not scared of spiders, of snakes, of certain things. But I will say, like, there is something, a special place for, like, demonic possession, or I don't know, just something that this could happen to anyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're just kind of in this house and, you know, in it, you know, messing with a Ouija board, what have you, and somehow this girl gets possessed, and it's just this, you know, absolute terrifying experience, and, you know, she's trying to, you know, see psychologists and doctors and going through this array of tests, and this, you know, largely innocent little girl is turned into this monstrous beast of a thing that is just saying,
"Stick your up her ass, you motherfucking worthless sucker."
Be silent!
and I'm sure it was censored for TV, so I wasn't even getting the full experience of some of the very explicit things she does or says. But even with that, you know, it was enough that I think the makeup is really well done. You got the classic pea soup, explosive, you know, vomit.
Vomiting.
Yeah. And just, I think it's just strong characters, very believable performances. You know, Max von Sydow is just absolutely incredible as the elder priest, and just Linda Blair as this young woman pulling off the performance of a lifetime. That is just inconceivable that this young woman could transform herself so completely into this irredeemable creature. Is just wonderful, but it was so believable to me that, you know, I was enraptured by it. You know, I believed this little girl had been possessed, that, you know, she was just this demon.
Is it based off a true story?
It is based off at least one exorcism, probably, you know, a handful of collected, you know, and a lot of embellishment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a book.
Mm-hmm.
And one day we will do a full episode where we'll explore what, because I offhand, I don't remember what the actual inspiration or what the specific exorcist was, but yeah, there was something that inspired that. I don't know if it was a female, a young girl that was inspired. I'm not sure if it was a young boy.
I think I'm recalling, I think it, like, you know how, like, the exorcism of Emily Rose,
Mm-hmm.
like, I think that Emily Rose was a real person.
I believe she was, but I don't think that this might have been like the Enfield. No, that was a poltergeist, I think. I'm not sure. Without looking it up offhand, I'm not sure. But that wasn't even a matter in this. It wasn't like I was thinking like, oh, is this based on something real? I'm talking about the fact that while watching it, I was so engrossed. Like I lost the barrier between reality and fiction, and it was like, oh my God, this is like real. And, you know, that's kind of sometimes the magic of movies, when you really do lose yourself and you're just transported with these characters. And I was transported into this nightmare. And, you know, again, like it doesn't end very well. You know, the fathers, they don't end well. Let's say that, if you haven't seen it. But, you know, there's some redemption, I guess, in it. But for me, Exorcist held up as one of those when people say, like, this is one of the scariest movies you'll see. Certainly as a teenager, what I would consider, you know, at least not a kid, you would have to be in a special state of mind or place to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember, like, when you first saw it?
So I'm going to tell you something.
Uh-oh. Have you never seen it?
I've never seen it all the way through. I've only seen bits of it here and there.
Okay. I mean, well, we're gonna have to watch it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And do a podcast on it, but
Okay.
we'll have to circle back and
We'll
kind
see
of
how Heidi's review.
So have you just kind of seen like the greatest hits, if you will, like
Yeah.
some of like the classic scenes?
Yeah, like
of
I've seen the vomiting, I've seen like the pre-scene, and like
Okay, I'm not gonna even spoil anything, but I'll be curious on what you have to say when we watch it.
we'll watch it during spooky season
We'll watch it during spooky season.
in a burr month. We're almost there.
Well, we have to do a podcast about it.
No, I know. I'm saying in like a burr month, like September,
Oh,
October,
I was
November,
like, what's a burr month?
December, the burr months.
Okay.
Let's rest before we start again.
Moving on to Heidi's number 3.
So I love this movie. It's got to be The Shining.
Oh, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm. I don't think it scares me so much now.
Well, let's start with when
so
did
when I
you
first
first see it? Yeah.
When I was with you in my
Okay.
early 20s.
Oh, all right.
Where I've seen most of my horror. Like growing up, I didn't watch a lot of horror. And so, so watching it with you.
Did we watch that in prep for Halloween Horror Nights, or was it like on a
I
streaming
think it was in
service?
prep for Halloween Horror Nights because then we went through the house.
Did I even go through that house? I don't know if I did.
I think you did.
I don't remember. I've been through a lot of those.
Yeah, no, it was the bathtub scene for sure that got me.
With the elderly woman?
Didn't like that at all.
That part, I remember Shining for me was, I was aware of a lot, kind of like you are with Exorcist, like, oh yeah, work and play makes Jack a tall boy, and blood in the hallway, little girls,
The blood in the hallway didn't bother me.
The
twin girls didn't bother me.
I didn't know about the
It was
old
the
woman.
bathtub that really bothered me.
Yeah, because that just like comes out of left field.
I
Like
hated it.
you think like it's gonna be like a very different scene, and then you're like, whoa! Like it's a mixture of gross and freaky, and you don't really know what's going on.
It's like, so I have a fear
Of bathtubs?
of shower curtains. So, like, no, don't judge me. Okay, so like,
I'm judging
you
you
ever-
a little bit, but
you ever
go
like,
on.
Okay, so
Are
in,
you
like,
talking about when like the shower curtain just like
moves a little bit, like on its own? You're like using the bathroom,
yeah, it's
and
like
then the
the
shower
heat.
curtain like moves. It always freaks me out. Like I'm always terrified that there's gonna be someone behind the shower curtain. And sometimes the cats will like sneak in there. They would in our old house, and they would like move it, and it would freak me the f out.
I've got a movie you need to see called Psycho. It'll
Yeah,
really
no,
do
I know,
well
I
with
know.
your shower curtain.
That's why. No, but I mean, I'm not scared of that anymore. But it's always a thought that comes in my head, though. If I'm near a shower curtain, I'm using the bathroom. I'm like, there might be someone behind there.
But what if?
Yeah. So
Was
I
it
didn't like
just literally one scene in the whole movie scared you, or were there other things that you found unsettling?
I
Because
didn't.
I'm
I
thinking,
don't think I liked the Danny's not here right now.
Oh, when he's talking to his friend.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I remember the end with Jack. You get a lot of the like caricature of like, here's Johnny, but you don't really get an idea of how terrifying he really is in that scene. Like Jack Nicholson falls into, is it Jack Torrance is his character?
Yeah.
And he just goes so hard.
Oh,
And
I've watched some behind the scenes where he's like pumping himself up for
Yeah.
that scene, and it's really crazy.
yeah, and
Like,
and he just, there's so much like energy and just like he's just stepped into another world there, because he's just like, come on, just give me it, come on. And you're like, oh my goodness, I do not want to be in a room with him. And then he's just hacking into the room and chasing them through the hedge maze, and it's just like that whole climax is just like, ugh.
yeah, but not like now. I've watched it a couple times since, and like, nothing really freaks me out. Just the bathtub scene. Still, I just don't want to see what she looks like. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant psychological horror.
Mhm.
And I think I'm not gonna say it scared me in a way, and it's
Mhm.
hard to describe because like psychological horrors are different from like a jump scare or like
Oh, for sure.
like The Conjuring, where it's like, okay. But this was like, I remember the moment when she's looking at his typewriter and then goes through like the whole stack of his manual, his book that he's working
and
on,
it's just-
manuscript,
Yeah.
and you realize, oh my God, has Jack been nutty this whole time, or how long has he lost his marbles, been whatever. And that there's this lingering unanswered question of like, wait, was he there the whole time? Because you get the photos in the 20s of like Jack's there, and you're like, there's this uneasy feeling of like, wait, was he a ghost? Where? And I like that. I like that ambiguity. I like that like, where I can't wrap my head around this quite yet. Like, it's a movie that does great because it doesn't give you all the answers. It doesn't explain everything, and I like that. It's a good one.
This is a good one. I would totally stay at the Stanley Hotel, by the way.
Is that the real one, or is that the the Overlook is based on?
Yeah.
Is that in Colorado?
Yes. In the mountains.
Would you stay during like a snowstorm, when you're not supposed to stay there with no other guests?
No.
Oh. Well, you just cheap out and like go when it's all nice and...
Yes.
Oh, okay.
This is our Colorado lounge.
Oh, it's beautiful. My God. This place is fantastic, isn't it, hon?
Sure is.
All right, Debbie. Movie number 3. What'll it be?
So this movie we watched together, and I'm going to say that I'm going to count this because I couldn't finish this. And I need, everyone to just kind of hold off and listen to why. It's a movie that I think we watched it during the pandemic in like 2020.
We did.
It was called Hush. It's a relatively new movie released in 2016. And we watched
Mike Flanagan. We love him.
Yes, Mike Flanagan directs, Kate Siegel stars, and we love Haunting of Hill House. So this was definitely after we saw that. And I'm not sure when Haunting of Bly Manor came out, but I feel like we had watched like Oculus and a few of yous. We had seen Dr. Sleep.
Oculus was so
we
good.
we were really enjoying a lot of Flanagan's work, and I remember you wanted to watch it. We watched like the trailer on like Netflix, and it is, if you're not familiar with the film, it is a woman who is deaf, and she is in her house, and
cabin in the woods.
Yeah, she's completely isolated, and she is being stalked and terrified by this killer person, individual. He's got like a crossbow
and a mask,
and it unsettled me. And others might say like, I didn't find it scary at all. It was something about the realism that I can handle I love monster movies because there's a certain element of like of fantasy there, that it's so kind of wonderful because it's so separated from reality. Like The Fly creeped me out because there's great practical effects, but at the end of the day, like I can go into my head and go, okay, but that's not real.
But
like
you probably won't turn into a fly.
I'm probably not going to become a fly man monster
unless you piss off a witch.
But there was something about, we were watching that, and I was like, okay, this is freaking me out, because it was just like, it was like a home intruder, and it was all very grounded. It's all very realistic. There's not really the only like element of like suspension of disbelief is like, she's deaf. And you're like, well, that's slightly unrealistic. I'm not deaf. But there were just like long stretches of like no dialogue, like
silence.
Yeah, where you're just almost claustrophobic because you've lost this sense. And so you have this feeling of like, I'm not at my full faculties because I'm experiencing this as a character who is missing a sense. And so you have this lack of hearing that is freaking you out. You have this very realistic situation of, yeah, home intruders happen. And I remember, like, by the time we turned it off, like, I don't even think I understood the killer's motive. That there was just this person who was terrifying this woman and some other people that are in the film. And it was just like this, like, why? But why? Like, as if I have a reason, then I can explain away some of the terror of this very real experience. And I came to a point where I literally looked at you and I was like, I'm going to go upstairs. This is too much for me. And it was for me, that one just freaked me out to a point of, I'm not going to say like it was like the jump scares. It was something about the situation unsettled me. And I couldn't finish it.
Yeah.
Did you ever?
No, I think I turned it off because you got upset.
Yeah, and so I was like, I wasn't trying to ruin it for you, but it was like, this, I know my limits, and I think that's important when you're watching these, is like, at the end of the day, like, yes, it's fun to kind of scare yourself, but if you're getting uncomfortable, like, you need to step away and be like, this is my limit,
I don't
this is
need
my
to
line.
subject myself to this.
There is enough terrifying nightmare fuel in our day-to-day lives. If you're watching a movie, it should be relatively fun, or you should have the control of being like, I'm enjoying this still. And if you're not, then you walk away. For me, that was my line of, okay, this is too real for me. I'd rather put on a monster movie or something less real for me. It was too real. Too real.
I get it.
All right, we're getting down to the wire. We are down to Heidi's number 2.
So, you can't make fun of me.
Okay.
Because I've never actually seen it.
Okay.
But, like, I've seen bits of it. Hereditary. Absolutely not.
The newer movie Hereditary?
I think 2018.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Just no.
Okay, because I didn't watch this one. I don't even know what it's about. What did you see, or what have you experienced that was like to the point where you're like, I don't even want to watch this?
There's like a pencil scene where he like smashes a pencil into his face.
That's in The Dark Knight, and
No.
You love The Dark Knight.
I'm gonna make this pencil disappear.
They were just reenacting that scene, that's all.
This is why you can't show that movie in school anymore. Kids just start acting that out.
I just wanted to do a magic trick, okay?
Did they shove the pencil in somebody's like head or eye?
Like, no, it's like someone did it to themselves.
But where did they?
In their face.
Okay, that's interesting. Why?
Yeah.
I don't even know what this movie's about. So
I don't
I know
either.
there's like
I just know it's Hereditary.
There's a little girl. So
Yeah.
you're scared of this movie. You don't know what the plot is. There was a pencil scene, and you're like, this is too much.
This is not for me.
Okay.
Yep, that's all I have to say on the matter.
There is
I won't watch it.
Because of a pencil scene? You don't even know what the movie's about?
I won't watch it.
I understand
It's about
that.
a family. It's like a mom and 2 kids.
Okay. I
And
guess I'll have
some
to.
effed up stuff happens, and like,
But how do you know
the little
what the-
kid in
what's
it
the
is like
plot then?
freaky looking. Like, there's something wrong looking with that kid. No offense to that actor, but like,
You know you were her favorite, right? Even when you were a little baby, she wouldn't let me feed you because she needed to feed you.
I don't like it.
But what's it about? If you know that it's about a mom and 2 kids, so why?
And just bad stuff happens.
But you don't even know what the plot is. Just bad stuff
I
happens.
just said, don't judge me.
I'm not judging. I'm trying to explore and understand what scares you about it.
Let me look up the plot real quick.
3 hours later.
So essentially, the plot is when Ellen, the matriarch of the Graham family, passes away, her daughter's family begins to unravel cryptic and increasingly terrifying secrets about their ancestry.
In pencils.
Shut up.
Okay.
But yeah.
So something about that just was too much.
Yes.
All right.
It's the kid. Look at the kid. The kid is creepy AF.
It was a interesting looking child.
I don't like it.
Okay.
It's heartening to see so many strange new faces here today. I know my mom would be very touched and probably a little suspicious.
All right. Well, what's your number 2? Judgy McGee.
My number 2. I'm gonna set the scene again because I like setting the scene because I think that's important on when you see when you see certain movies can be an indicator on why they scare you, what scared you, all that. So for me, turn the clock back to 1999 and a movie was released. I was in 6th grade. I did not see this in theaters. We rented it from a video store back in the day, and I think my dad put it on, or we had rented it in some capacity because again, my parents are not horror hounds. I would be surprised.
They don't like to watch any horror. Like,
I would be
Stranger
surprised.
Things.
Well, I know. Like, I would be surprised if they even had a horror movie in their movie collection. But we had rented this. I guess somebody had heard it was good, and it was The Sixth Sense. And this was it had just been released. This was, really pre the internet days of things being spoiled. I didn't know the ending, and somehow if you have listened or gone your whole life and listened through this and not had it spoiled, I'm not going to spoil the ending, but there is a interesting change of pace at the end. And it is about a young boy whose sixth sense is the ability to see ghosts, and he is working with Bruce Willis.
And of course, they're all super gory and
They're a lot of the ghosts are pretty freaky looking. I remember there's like ghosts that are hung, I think in the school.
Mm-hmm.
There's like one point I think when like a little boy goes through, he's like, you want to see like my dad's gun?
Hey, come on. I'll show you where my dad keeps his gun.
And he like turns and his like face is blown off. And I remember, and this probably because I was in 6th grade, so you're right on the cusp of, you know, child to...
I thought it was supposed to freak you out as an adult.
Well, I said 10 and under is kid. 11 years old, you know, this is where but I think it follows a similar that I talked about in the beginning, that there is something about when children are in danger that is really scary as a child. And you have, in Sixth Sense, you have a young person who I think Haley Joel Osment is like my age, or so you've got like someone who's really analogous to me in age, in upbringing, and he's got this extra ability and is just literally haunted by it, by these ghosts that will not stop harassing him. And it was freaky as hell to me. And at that age, I wasn't, you know, I was too old to be like, I want to sleep with my parents, but I slept on the couch in my living room because I didn't want to sleep in my bedroom. So I didn't really like have anywhere to go, but I was like, I don't want to be in my bedroom. Like, and there was something about like the living room was like more open. So like it didn't feel as scary as a bedroom, if that makes sense. And so Sixth Sense, saw it like when it just came out. I was younger, but it was enough to really mess me up. And that one stuck with me for a while. I think now, you know, as we've talked about, now I think it's an amazing movie. I love watching it. It doesn't make me want to sleep on a sofa, but I think it's a great film that before it got overplayed in its twist, I think that did a disservice to it, if that makes sense. It made it like more of a joke to people, or the like, I see dead people. Like, it's like, yeah, okay, that's funny.
I like that one. I saw it as an adult again, and I liked it. I didn't think it was too scary.
Oh, you're scaring me.
They scare me too sometimes.
All right, so I do want to move on. Before we get to our number one, our top picks, do you have any honorable mentions that you want to kind of add before we get into your number one?
I can't think of anything specific, but I feel like just any 80s horror movie.
That is not true. We just watched Friday the 13th, and you were like, that wasn't scary. What's instant coffee?
That was great. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know.
But for you, practical effects are scarier.
Yes.
You find that more terrifying. Pencils, curtains.
Yeah.
Inanimate objects moving when they shouldn't, like cabinets in the kitchen opening.
I don't know. That's
freaky.
Is there an alien movie?
Yes, it's called Alien.
No.
It was your top 5. Eat a penis head. We talked about this.
I mean about like alien abduction or anything like that, because I'm low key freaked out about aliens.
Just put a pin in that.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that later. But okay, if you don't have an honorable mention, that's okay.
I don't. I'm so sorry. But I mean, I guess my honorable mention is it's a TV show, Haunting of Hill House.
Okay.
Fabulous. Scared the poop out of me the first time we watched it. There's one jump scare scene in the car. Literally, I jumped into your lap. It scared me so bad. That was amazing. That was like the best jump scare I've ever reacted to.
We were watching it, and we knew that there were a lot of hidden ghosts. So we spent a lot of our first like watch through like peering in the corners. I remember like sometimes we would pause and I'd like walk up to the TV and like try and look in a corner. And so what's really fun is if you watch this for the first time looking like a Where's Waldo game, it can sneak up on you because we're like, wonder if there's any hidden ghosts. And this jump scare happened. You started screaming. And your
I literally
scream,
like jumped into your lap.
Your scream scared and surprised me so much, so I started screaming because you were screaming, and we're just both screaming at each other at this point. And it was a wonderful experience.
It was really good. Like that one really got me.
Because it was a mixture of, I didn't feel like it was cheap, I wasn't expecting it, and you scared me more than the show did. So just goes to show you, sometimes you can be more scared of real life.
What's your honorable mention?
I've got two I want to bring up. One, I put this very much on par with The Exorcist, in that I heard about how scary this was as a child, or the idea of it scared me so much that I didn't want to watch it until I was like an adult or could kind of cope with it better. And that was Jaws.
What? You didn't see Jaws as a kid?
I did not see Jaws as a kid.
I totally did.
I was probably, I was a teenager. I was probably it was probably like 15 or older. And so talking about things that scare us. So I am scared of drowning. I'm not a fan of water. I'm not a strong swimmer. I don't do well in, certainly not open water.
I know.
There's enough terrifying things in the ocean. And for me, a shark it's a killing machine. It is a beautifully evolved creature that can devour so much. And the idea that there is this man-eating mammoth of a shark freaked me out as a kid. I didn't need a reason to be scared of the water. Already had enough, and it was like, there's this monster shark. And now we watch it every year, and I love it. But as a kid, I couldn't watch it. And as an adult, it still, I would say, scared me. But I feel like that kind of blends into the territory of like, it almost scared me more as a kid. Because then by the time I actually saw it, it didn't scare me, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. The idea, the concept was scarier in my head than it was as an actual film by the time I saw it, I guess. And that leads over into my second one, where the concept is probably scarier than the movie. And so kind of similar to you with Hereditary, in 2014, there was a movie called Just Clown that was released. And I think we had just started dating, and my roommate, he had showed me this trailer, and it's about this father who
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I refuse to see that.
Like, finds a trunk, and he wants to, or like, I don't know if like they rented a clown for his son's birthday or child's birthday. The clown doesn't show up, and there's like a trunk, and he's like, I'll just put on this clown costume. And then he can't get it off.
Yes.
So he's like trying to peel off this like red rubber nose, but it's like become him. And then like, and there was something kind of going, once again, clowns as a concept don't scare me. I think it's more the body horror, this transformation, this idea that this parasitic uniform has just attached itself. The trailer was enough that I was like, you know what? I don't need to see that movie. That's freaking me out.
I agree with you. I wouldn't want to see that one.
And that was what, 6 years ago? And
8.
And so there you go. That was a movie that was enough that I was like, I don't need to see this one. Like, it's not the clowns. It was something about the costume. I don't know. Yeah, it weirded me out. So
going back to Jaws real quick. So obviously I love that. I love sharks. I dive with them all the time. Well, not all the time, but yeah. But because of Jaws, it's literally why I'm afraid to dive at night or swim at night. Like, I don't like going in pools at night. I always think that a shark's going to be in the water and eat me. I know that's so stupid. Even as an adult, like, that thought still creeps into my mind.
It is fascinating, those things that like linger with us as kids that are just so
in
irrational.
Particular, it's the second movie with the jump scare of they're underwater they're looking at the boat and the head like pops through. Or is that the first one?
No, that's in the first one.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, which Richard Dreyfuss is diving.
It's
and
that
then
particular scene that really freaks me out for diving at night. So
you're just like scared if you were diving at night that all of a sudden like a head would just like float up from somewhere, or a shark would appear.
A shark,
okay.
Yeah. So like, I'm literally absolutely terrified to go night diving, and I need to get over it. I need to do it.
And you love the water, and you are scuba certified.
I'm a rescue diver. Like, I love diving. I love sharks. Diving. I love being with sharks. But something about night diving freaks me the F out.
Quick tangent, we'll get back to it. I had on my bucket list for a long time swim with sharks. And when I was working in Florida at Typhoon Lagoon, they had this ability to, I'm going to put this in quotes, swim with sharks. And they're these like little like dogfish. What type of sharks were they?
They're bonnet heads.
A what?
They're tiny. They're like a foot long.
It looks like a baby hammerhead.
And I remember when I was doing, it's like you just would swim kind of like
snorkel across.
Yeah, you snorkel. It's pretty quick. It's like 2-minute swim just directly across. And I remember, like, I was in my 20s, and I was, like, kind of scared still that I'm like, I'm swimming with sharks. Even though it's these tiny, like, foot-long little, like, baby sharks practically. I was like, but what if they bite me? So, I don't know. There's Jaws, clearly had an impact where I was still, even to this day, kind of like, kind of freaks me out. Even little sharks.
You can't see, but I've been, like, literally this close to a shark before in the water at the seas.
You go.
It was really cool. It was a sand tiger, so it wasn't going to do but they look freaky.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not talking about hooking some poor dogfish or sand shark. I'm talking about finding a great white.
All right, without further ado, what is Heidi's number 1 scariest movie that scared her as an adult?
So it's so scary that I won't watch it.
What?
So
Another?
It is. But it's like you see the trailer and you're like, that's not for me. Gerald's Game.
Oh, okay. Another Mike Flanagan.
Yes, but that is very much not for me.
So for those who aren't familiar with Gerald's Game, what is the plot that you know?
So it's this couple, right? And, they're going to spice things up. They're staying miles away and I don't know if it's a cabin or
it's an isolated
or
place.
An Airbnb or something like that. They're staying far away, and they bring out the handcuffs, and the wife, she's handcuffed to the bed. The husband comes out and trying to be all sexy and stuff, and he dies.
Yeah, I think he
has a brain aneurysm.
Okay, I was
something
it's like a heart attack or something that kills him,
and he dies.
I think during sex. And
no, it's right before.
Oh,
he's not on her.
Oh, I thought he passed out on her. Or
no,
or died on her.
But she can't do anything. She's literally real handcuffs tied up to this bed. She can't reach her phone. They're miles away. No one's gonna be checking in on them, and she's just there with her dead husband. And then she starts seeing him and having conversations with him, and it's just that is not for me.
Yeah, that is kind of like Hush. You're dealing with a very
realistic. It could happen.
Yes. That is and that's where I don't like certain horror, because it's okay, conveniently, these kids are all in this cabin in the woods and that. But this really sets it up well. It's oh yeah, a couple would go out to a cabin.
We've done it.
Want to do some spicy things, not expect that some sort of health crisis would happen after you've been hooked up. You have no escape plan. And then things only get worse from there. And that idea of survival, that you're just a ticking clock against your own survival. How are you going to eat? How are you going to live? What do you do? How do you escape? You're trapped in your own making. It's not a killer that has trapped you. It's just trapped it to this bed. Ooh, yeah, don't like that.
No,
that's fair enough. Hereditary, I don't know what you're scared of.
We'll watch the trailer.
I'll
show you it after this.
All right, I guess so. I'll give you, Gerald's Game. I never watched that because you never wanted to, but I think that might be kind of like Hush, where there's something unsettling. It's fascinating the things that different ways we can be scared. I think there's a psychological terror. I think there's suspense. I think there's gore that we can find grotesque, and we're fearful of that. And then there is something about realistic terror. And that falls into that category of this could happen feasibly, and what do you do? And it just goes into that primal layer of being trapped. Ugh.
Not for me.
Good stuff.
You'll be asleep. Very, very relaxed. 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Well, that's my number 1 What is your numero uno most terrifying of the terrors of movies?
movie that scared me as an adult? All right. So in 2009, this movie was released. I didn't see it till 2010. I was in Florida. I was living with a roommate named Eric, and we had some other people over. I don't know whose idea it was to put this on, but I didn't know anything about it, and we decided to, we're gonna watch a scary movie. Don't know how we watched it, whether like somebody had a DVD or was like, oh, you gotta see this, but we decided to put it on, and it was called The Fourth Kind. I feel like this is relatively unknown. Not a lot of people talk about it. Well, there's probably a reason. So to give you, I've only seen this once when I first saw it, and I never wanted to see it again because it was like too freaky for me.
You still don't?
I feel like if I watched it again, I would be almost embarrassed by being like, why did this scare me? I don't really know. And so if you've never seen it, I'm not going to say if you like scary movies that this one's going to change you. But for me, it scared the poop out of me. And so the description that I found is, since the 1960s, a disproportionate number of the population in and around Nome, Alaska has gone missing. Despite FBI investigations, the disappearances remain a mystery. Dr. Abigail Tyler Mila Jovovich, a psychologist, may be on the verge of blowing the unsolved cases wide open when, during the course of treating her patients, she finds evidence of alien abductions. So the idea of the fourth kind
this would scare me.
The idea of the fourth kind is, if you're familiar, I forget who categorized these, but there's encounters of the first kind, second kind, third kind. We're pretty familiar with Close Encounters of the Third Kind from Spielberg. This then says that there is a fourth kind, which is alien abductions. And what's fascinating about this movie is it is stylized like a mockumentary. So if I remember correctly, because again, I saw this once, it was 12 years ago. I don't remember this perfectly, but what I remember is they present it as like a based on true events. And what's fascinating is they are upfront with saying there are actors that are playing some characters, like Mila Jovovich. She is playing this Dr. Abigail. But then they film with they show footage of the real Abigail Tyler, and you get this idea that like almost as if they're admitting, yes, we're using actors, but then you also see this found footage. So it almost reinforces that there is a acknowledgement of there's a staged, let's say, and the real, when in reality it's all bunk.
Oh, okay.
But because this was, again, not in the days where like you necessarily like watched a movie and like looked up whether it was real or not. Like I fully believed that like this mockumentary was using real footage. Like it was presented in a way that was very convincing and very creepy. There's like owls as like a motif, and they are like, I think like the owls are kind of like emblematic or like maybe aliens themselves. And like owls are really creepy creatures, and like the ones they use are like screech or snow owls that kind of look like gray aliens.
Tell me about the owl. Tell me about the owl.
There's this woman who looks like gaunt and creepy, like she's almost like a hybrid alien, and just like the whole situation. I've never seen a UFO or had a abduction, but there was something about that, about these people being terrorized and abducted, and there was something real about how they presented it with this kind of multi-layer of filmed footage and found footage, and presented it in such a way that it was like, this is real. This is a actual documentary that I was like, okay, I don't want to go to bed tonight. This freaked me out. And again, if I watched it now, especially knowing that it's all fake and none of this is actually real, I would have a much different viewing. But for me at the time, having no knowledge of that, having gone in fresh to this with no, when someone just puts on a movie, you don't have a trailer. You don't have any pre-existing idea of like, They may have said it's a horror movie. I don't even know if I got that much. It's just like, let's watch this movie. Okay. Blindly put it on, and it freaked me out.
Yeah. I think that would freak me out too. Like now, I think that would freak me out.
I feel like you're not a fan of alien abductions, are you?
No.
So I feel like, yeah.
I mean, I've told you, like, I've seen the Phoenix Lights. Like, I was there. I saw that. I've also had an experience in Tucson where I saw stuff in the sky, like really weird up close stuff. Like it, yeah. So I don't like aliens. They freak me out. But you actually, in saying all that, you actually sparked my honorable mention.
Okay, we'll circle back.
The Blair Witch Project.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw that one too late for it to be, I think, as scary as it was for some others.
Yeah. I saw it as a young adult. And it freaked me out. Like,
did you see it like shortly after it was released, or?
No, I think I saw it. I saw it in college, and like I knew that it wasn't real, like that it was like a documentary, but like it still freaked me out. Like stupid, but like the freaking rocks outside their tent like freaked me out.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of elements that really freaked me out because it seemed just really realistic.
I think that's the thing is mockumentaries for me are more terrifying than some other things. And I don't know why, whether it's something about we talk about how Hush was scary because it's realistic in this could happen. The fact that they it's the presentation in a way that this was real. Yeah. There's something ingenious about that if you can watch those movies without someone spoiling, it's not actually real. If you go in there and you're presented in this such a way that it's like, this is real. Like, that's more terrifying. That is scarier to me than something like Halloween, which is a great film and can be scary to some, but it's kind of like, all right, well, I know a lunatic didn't really escape and Haddonfield, Illinois is not real, but maybe there is a Blair Witch. Maybe some unexplained thing took out these adults. Like, what was that? So, I'll give you that.
Yeah.
All I know is that he believed what he saw. There was more fear in his eyes than I've ever seen in my life.
So I guess my question is, do any of your movies still scare you as an adult now?
Well, yeah, Hereditary and Gerald's Game.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Because I haven't seen them, and I refuse. Like, I will not.
I'll give you Gerald's Game. I
would
feel
maybe
like...
give in on Hereditary and watch it, but Gerald's Game, there's no way in hell I will ever watch that movie.
That's fair enough. Fourth Kind scared me enough that I haven't been back to it since. So clearly, I'm not going to say it still scares me, but it did affect me enough that I haven't decided to, even out of like curiosity, like, oh, well, I should watch this one again.
Well, maybe we'll face our fears and watch it together.
I'm not going to watch Gerald's Game. I'll give you that one.
No, I'm not going to watch that either. I'm saying maybe we'll watch The Fourth Kind and Hereditary.
Maybe. Hush is not one I'm interested in finishing. So I will say that, that one still scares or unsettles me, however you want to put it. But a lot of the other ones, I would say I very much enjoy, like Sixth Sense and Exorcist, Jaws, all those. So there's a lot, I think, that I've gotten past whatever that fear was or that first viewing terror, and now it's very enjoyable. And I'd be curious if others have like their scariest movie is either one that was so scary you haven't even seen it. It was a trailer, was an idea scary enough for you that it prompted you not to want to watch it. Is there a movie that you finished that still has shaken you? Do you agree with some of ours? Do you disagree and say, I think you guys are a little bit silly for thinking this scared you? But what's your scariest movie that you have seen as an adult? I want to know what other people's are, especially if we haven't seen it. I'd be curious to look into them and be like, oh man, would we be brave enough to watch that?
We'll give a couple a try. I just won't watch any Japanese horror because that freaks me out.
Japanese horror? Like The Ring?
No, like Japanese like horror movies. Like I watched The Hunger Games, like the Japanese version though.
What?
No.
Oh, okay.
Don't.
All right. Got it. Your line is...
Yeah, I don't know why there's something freaky about like...
horror from Japan?
Yeah. Like,
okay.
Theirs is like particularly effed up.
All right. I'll just take your word for that one. But let us know, what's scary for you. Is it snakes, spiders, being buried alive, claustrophobia? What's your fear? What gets you? What movie really messed you up? And, how has that changed you? But we're going to call it a day for now. We're going to next time go back to Stranger Things, pick up where we left off,
Yay.
Keep exploring the Montauk Project and all the strange happenings there. And if you enjoy this and want to hear this early, we do post this early on our Patreon. You can also see behind the scenes of what's coming up, what we're working on, behind the scenes photos, early projects, all sorts of goodies. It helps support us, helps keep our YouTube channel and our podcast going. And without that, we really couldn't be doing this. So thank you if you already are a supporter. You guys mean the world to us. And if you are considering supporting us, well, thank you in advance.
Awesome. See you guys in your dreams.
Oh.
Nightmares, I mean.
Oh, dear. Spooky season's coming up. Heidi's going to be doing Freddy Krueger to you.
Yep, that's right.
All right.
Deal with it.
Well, just watch out for those shower curtains.
Those are my claws.
Oh, but you did the Friday the 13th song. All right, bye.
The end.